welcome to another episode of Secrets of a B2B Marketer. Today we have with us Mr. Jagannath, fondly known as Jaggi. Jaggi has a rich experience of 25 years in the B2B marketing space. He's the regional head of marketing and partnerships for Thoughtworks for India as well as Middle East. 25 years, wow, Jaggi. I don't know how I'm going to capture all of that into a few sentences. So I'm going to make this like your job to introduce yourself to our audience. If you could please do the honors.
Thank you so much, Benita. Thank you for this opportunity. 25 years is a long journey, but I've had chances to work at one of the top-notch B2B companies in MNCs across the world. Worked in hardware, worked in software, worked now in services. So pretty much I've seen the gamut of multiple range or other options categories, right, in that space. Started my career in advertising B2C, completely non-tech, non-whatever, and then slowly moved the needle to where I am today. I had the opportunity to work in companies like Reliance, Sun Microsystems, LinkedIn, a little bit in Tech Mahindra, VMware for a long time, now currently in Thoughtworks, but had roles in sales, marketing, and led multiple functions in the marketing space. So I had the good fortune of being able to impact a lot of brands along the way.
I think you're the perfect guest for our episode, Jaggi, because our listeners are predominantly B2B marketers and a few in the B2B sales functions, and often these are overlapping. And with the kind of rich experience that you have, I believe that there's a lot of value you can add to us. So the first question I want to start with, and I often reserve this for the end, but for you, this is the thing I have to start with, which is, what's the one secret you have learned across your 25 years of experience that you can share with our audience today?
Wonderful. I think if I would really sum up, this whole B2B marketing space, right? A lot of people think B2B marketing is boring and dull, drab. It's not so exciting as what B2C selling a sugary drink or a phone or whatever do, right? But I've seen in some ways both the sides of the spectrum. It is more internal than external, and it's more the marketeers' excuse for not really pushing themselves, right? So, in my opinion, the customers are the same. The people who buy B2B are humans. They're not machines. They also require good content. They also need to be told a good story. They also need to be reached out in the right, interesting way, right? So why should they be subject to content which is like PhD stuff or, which requires very technical knowledge? They're not required. I mean, they also require stuff that needs to be told very well. So in this slide, right, I can give you a couple of examples where we really dumb down and primarily three things really work here. So one is obviously try and be seen, or rather try and present yourself to your prospects or customers at the most unusual places, and they would appreciate. I mean, why should a B2B marketer only be seen in tech journals or magic quadrants or research reports? Why can't I be somewhere else? And this is something that we explored, and we really did some experiment and really found great value, is when we put the Sun Microsystems logo on an Air Deccan aeroplane.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so just imagine. So what is the logic, right? I mean, our target audience typically would be IT decision makers who would fly. I mean, typically they would be crisscrossing any airport at any point in time, and I would at least 80% of them will live in large cities, whatever, right? Just imagine if the CI of a company that we were prospecting were to just see my plane, see the logo of what he's talking to on a plane that he's flying. It is just a wow moment, right? I mean, so that was really interesting. So, not necessarily monetizing directly, but I'm seeing the kind of PR that we got out of it, the kind of stories that got written about it. We were probably the first guys who've done that. And the whole process, I mean, today, if you see, obviously, Air Asia has Kabali movies and, Rajinikanth movies on the planes, but that happened much later.
Yeah.
So this is something that we did long ago.
Basically told the airline industry how they can additionally monetize.
Absolutely, why not? I mean, right? I mean, this is another, for low-cost airline, that was a great revenue earner for them. All we had to do is put the change delivery in some places. So that was one interesting example I could give. The other thing that we again tried and pushed the boundaries were I would say out of the box sort of a thing, where we tried to put a B2B brand in a movie. Right? We tried this thing with a movie called Love Story 2050 a few years ago. Not the most memorable movies, but that apart, I mean, I wouldn't. So when we had the idea, it seemed like a great idea. It was a movie that was set partly in the current.
You can control the outcome of the movie, but I think it was a smart idea.
Yeah, so exactly, right? So it was the movie was partly set in like now and something in the future, and the hero goes and searches for his girlfriend in the future. Something, so it's basically like a futuristic movie.
Yeah.
And it came to us when somebody proposed this idea to us, we said, why not, right? Why should we be seen only in the regular expected places? Why should we not be seen in a movie? And it's a big blockbuster with Priyanka Chopra and all the likes, right? So, and when we evaluated the ideas, we said, okay, in the story, how do we ensure that we can put our logos and be visible, right? So it was primarily some kind of futuristic search engines. We had some Java logo coming up. There was a futuristic city, there were hoardings, there were some logos. So basically there were multiple options, some robots moving around, it had some logos. So basically we had very innovatively put a few logos without
organically woven into the story.
Organically woven into the thing, but without being an eyesore in some ways, right? Yeah. So both these examples I gave, right, they were not very expensive. I mean, again, don't go by the fact, okay, I really had to didn't cost us the moon. These were innovative ideas. We said, okay, let's try and weave in stories by part of this, some like a situation that we could exploit. The other example that I could give again was what we did was for the 10 years anniversary for Java. Java, right? Java, the Sun Microsystems, Java language and whatever, right? So, and Java typically is used by developers. Developers across the world, millions of them are probably Java trained, and Java is such a
one B2B brand that even B2C people have heard of.
Exactly, a known visible brand. People use it, and it is used by B2B companies, and obviously a lot of ecosystem. The whole developer ecosystem uses this very, very frequently, right?
Yeah.
And when we had this 10-year opportunity, I said, what is the best way to? We could have had more talks, more tech talks, and getting people into a room and giving them more gyan. We didn't want to do that. We said, let's do this a celebratory thing very differently. We actually caught hold of the top designers and the fashion folks, whatever. We actually had a fashion show, and people portrayed, or rather, one of the themes was, what would Java mean to you if you were to wear it as clothes, right? Obviously, it was futuristic. It had very, very interesting connotations of how people interpreted what Java could be in terms of what people could wear, right? So, which is very different, very novel, very, I would say again, you won't expect this to read. More than that, you won't expect to read about Java on the page 3.
Right? Absolutely.
Right? So it is a completely different place that you thought you could, right? So I would say that finally, when I said to a long story for a short answer, a short question, is basically to tell that the one nugget of wisdom, if I could share with people, is don't necessarily treat B2B as very boring, dull. It is more within our heads than externally. Right? The people are the same. They need to be treated well. They need to be told a nice story. They need to be wowed in their experience. They need to be given content which is not necessarily the technical stuff all the time. They need to be also be, we should be easy on them sometimes. So that was, I think, that is one thing. But I don't think they are waiting just because I'm a B2B buyer. Just because I'm a B2B customer, I need to be told the difficult stuff. No, they also are human. They also interact with brands the way anybody else does. Right? They also go to social media. They also watch television. They also have their families. They do everything else like us. Just because the journey cycle is different doesn't mean that we make them difficult. We make it difficult for them. So that is one big learning for me. So let's
I must thank you for saying this and calling it out, because that's one thing which I keep kind of insisting in my conversations with our clients and potential clients, that you don't have to be boring. You don't have to. In fact, the last episode we recorded was about storytelling in B2B marketing, and it's very important that as B2B marketers we break this whole wrong notion, I would say, that we have to be straitjacketed, it has to be done like this. I still encounter a lot of industries where people tell us, but in our field, this is how it is done. Oh, but because it is done like that, it's a great opportunity for you to, do something different and just stand out. Right?
So if you do the boring stuff, you do the predictable stuff, you get predictable results, right?
Exactly.
Just because the category leader is doing something for hundreds of years and it is what the way it's been done. So if you don't come out of a comfort zones, if you don't challenge yourself, if you don't push those envelopes and boundaries beyond what the norms are, you will never get those opportunities. Their opportunities are there. It's about being creative and lapping them up, right? So it is about try, you'll fail. I'm sure not all of it may not work. For example, the movie thing, great experiment. Okay, the movie didn't do well. That was not in our control. Sure. But whoever saw that at least had some recollection. We did a little PR around it. Basically, it was just not one activity and we forgot, right? We did whatever we grew.
You get a chance to talk about it on social media. It's a newsworthy piece. The traditional media would pick it up and carry it. And I think had the experiment succeeded in that, the movie succeeded. I think your experiment was still successful.
Exactly.
If the movie wasn't. Had the movie succeeded, we would be having a different story here. But it's still a great story, right? I, for one, am a firm believer that failures teach us a lot more. And in this case, I wouldn't even say it's a failure, right? It's just that expectations must have been higher and they weren't met. And that's the fault for the producer side, not your side. But yeah, tremendous learning here. On the topic of channels, and particularly we spoke about movie as a channel of communication, airlines as a channel of communication. I also want to, because this is my favorite channel, namely LinkedIn, and you were a director at LinkedIn. I definitely want to kind of probe deeper on that. And what is it that you think from a channel standpoint, from a B2B standpoint, is LinkedIn a great tool for generating leads, reaching the right audience? What more can you tell us about LinkedIn?
Absolutely. So, I was fortunate to have been the head of marketing, director of marketing at LinkedIn for some time. But I could tell, so LinkedIn today, which started off as what we call as the professional record of anybody's professional services. I mean, it's my record of what I've achieved from a personal perspective. But today, the large network of professionals have given opportunities to B2B companies as well to leverage that whole ecosystem and be visible and to communicate with them, right? So today, LinkedIn has become a destination, not because of the networks that we are part of, but the content it provides. Today, every day, for example, I scroll down because I find great content. Either I've subscribed to, or people like yourselves or people like the ecosystem has really put in some interesting content, right? And all of us have to consume content. And content was now and will be the king for a long time. So everybody who creates great content creates great stickiness and will want people to come back again and again to consume that. And that is what great platforms have done that, right? So LinkedIn, with the technology, algorithms, today also gives you great opportunities to hyper-personalize and target people the way you want. For example, if I were a B2B marketer and you were my prospect, I could pretty much target you like an individual. I pick you up, right? So, and that is the beauty of the platform. So I could do cross-sections, dissections of profiles of people, profiles of companies, sizes, designations, locations, multiple cuts and slices of the whole thing. And I could then create messaging for people in an extremely targeted way. So that is what I think LinkedIn in some ways becomes a great platform to give you targeted communication, targeted outreach to folks that you want. But obviously, the heart of it is obviously content, right? And content becomes extremely important. And while there is a lot of static content that comes in our feed, but also today it gives you a lot of leverage on how do you create video content, how do you create rich content, which is basically you're interacting and creating engagement far more in an interesting way and people in most topical way than making it extremely generic for people to look for or search for, right? So that way, I think LinkedIn becomes, I would say, the mainstay tool for a lot of B2B marketers to really reach out to the prospects and how you want to create engagement, how you want to tell a story, how you want to create a video, what are multiple options available on LinkedIn platform today, which help you give you that possibilities of reaching out to your prospects in most targeted, focused way with obviously with very extremely less spillovers and wastages. You reach out, and every rupee can be stretched well on LinkedIn. So that's my takeaway from this whole platform.
You mentioned targeted content, right? Clearly, target audience needs to be at the forefront, and that's another thing that, because we work with so many clients, we notice that we really have to push them to say, no, you are still talking about yourself. I have recently had a round of discussion with someone. They're contemplating doing a LinkedIn audio soon. And every time they keep going back to topics that are about them or themselves. And one of the things we keep pushing back is, no, this audio is not about you, it's about your audience. Could you help us with some thoughts and examples of how target audience becomes a crux, heart, soul of your content?
So the more finely we define our audience, right, it becomes easier for us to communicate with them in the most focused way. Obviously, once you know your target audience, then you know the journey. For example, in B2 space, depending on the journey of the customer or journey of the what stage of the journey are your customers, you can possibly target content in the right way, right? That becomes critical. So in terms of what a platform can give you as an option, plus how you want to target them with the content that you create, I think it is somehow the sweet spot of making sure that everything that you do reaches to the right people at the right stage of their journey, the most cost-effective way. Because I'm not using a medium which has got extremely large spillovers or wastages. I've got a very well-defined audience to whom I can reach the most focused, and that is typically, the more laser focused I am, the better it is, right? As simple as that. It is like what we call as hyper personalization. I can go to one person, one individual. The segment is one individual, right?
Yeah.
So other than calling segments of groups of people. So that is where I think that's what the platform gives you. And with the algorithms and with all the things that run behind, it's able to give you the set of target audience that you want to completely pick and choose, the most, I would say, laser focused way, and you can then create stuff that is around that, right? So the experiences, the content, the audios, videos, whatever you want to create, that is then positioned to that people that you identified. So it becomes extremely
interesting that you say this, because and I think this is where the balance striking can come in. If I go back to your example of the Sun Microsystems logo on the aeroplane, in a way, you have kind of targeted larger than just the CIO, right? How does that kind of balance with what you said, in terms of hyper specification of target audience?
Somewhere, again, right? So like, I think Malcolm Gladwell in his book Blink, he says, typically our brand choices are made by in a few seconds. The first few seconds you make a choice based on the multiple imagery, multiple stories, whatever is in your head. It's basically you already made a choice whether you want to buy or not buy in the very first few seconds, and because you're falling back on certain stuff that's all in your head, right? So in the exposure, for example, a Sun Microsystems logo on an airplane, obviously it is reaching out to non-tech audience, children, housewives, whoever they are, like anybody who's flying a plane possibly can see, but they don't even know who we are. But then the ecosystem of people that it eventually, maybe it'll also create prospective employees, for example, or partners who want to partner with us, or developers who want to come and work with us. That whole ecosystem is just not the buyers at this point in time that I want to, in for example, LinkedIn, that gives me a possibility of targeting buyers because I can do that. In certain other domains or certain other channels, it is a little more prevalent, but a B2B, the purpose there was not to really create a sale by showing it to CIOs, but exciting the larger ecosystem of people in the B2B space to just create a wow, saying, wow, I never expected a Sun Microsystems logo, a B2B marketing, a B2B product or server storage sort of a company, an airplane which is genuine. So it creates a lot of buzz. And obviously, it's like now today we talk about employer brands and all of that, right? Recruitment branding. So it also in some ways rubs off people who want to be excited, join the company, wanting to develop with us, partner with us. multiple. So other components of the ecosystem also get excited about it. So
in
that
fact,
is the impact that you create. Yeah.
If I may add to what you said, I think even as B2B buyers, people get influenced sometimes from within the ecosystem, sometimes from external factors. And I'm not using the word influencers here in the current social media lingo sense of it, but influencer in context of someone who influences your decision making, right? Which is typically how it was meant to be when we originally used the word influencers on social media. What you did also impacted those influencers who were the wind beneath the wings. Absolutely. Allowing the decision makers to also have one more voice in their ear talking about Sun Microsystems, and therefore kind of making it a lot more prevalent brand on their mind, right? It makes your brand the first brand that comes to mind, and that can aid a sales cycle in an immeasurable but very critical way. So I think what you said completely makes sense.
So also remember, right, in the category that we were at that point in time, so we were not the leaders. There were much bigger players than us, an IBM and HP and bigger companies, right? We were like a challenger brand. And challenger brands can get away with doing this, and because you want to do something different, right? And IBM may not risk it, or I don't know. I mean, maybe they would not. But as a brand that was challenging the biggies, we could push the envelopes, the boundaries much faster, quicker, and we wanted to do something. And that gave us this whole thing of who we are. I mean, Sun was a very cool brand, one of those hottest Silicon Valley startups a long time ago. The culture was different. We were like cowboys going out, a very different sort of people who believed in technology, who believed in alternate way of doing things. And that is what really also pushed the marketing teams to identify and figure out what we could do differently. We were not doing the regular seminars. We did the regular seminars, that was what was expected, but we did something else. Yeah. And that's really made the brand salient. It stood out very differently. It got noticed by, and also remember this, right? So Solaris was one of our biggest operating systems at point in time, like enterprise solar, I've heard of Solaris, right? Yeah. And Solaris was like developer friendly sort of a thing, and people wanted to get onto Solaris and be developed. And we had engineering institutes which had curriculums on some technologies. So multiple things would actually cascade down at places that you wouldn't even expect. You'd probably be having an institute from somewhere down south asking you to have, can we have Solaris or some technologies being taught in the fourth year computer science curriculum, right? So those kind of things. And obviously that ecosystem was something that we always wanted to be part of. So I'm saying in terms of, okay, you have the core audience and you want to create a desired impact there, but there's always certain other stuff that happens. And if you can, in the process, rub off or impact a few other peripheral audiences or peripheral benefits out of it, why not, right? So that way, I think the logo on the plane really did a lot of good to us.
I love the excitement and passion with which you were narrating the whole thing. It brought a twinkle to your eye, and clearly that's the impact. If someone were to ask what's the impact, I think this is the immeasurable impact. We are so caught up in this whole business of ROI, and yes, ROI is important, but sometimes these immeasurables become so crucial, and that's the reward of creative out-of-the-box work that you've done. That it's still, I mean, I don't know how long ago you were with Sun, but clearly it's still a story on your mind. You're still talking about it.
I'm saying even the conferences we used to do, right? We used to do completely different things, and it was not just more. Yeah, I mean, we used to create experience. I'm saying even if we had like a physical event coming in, the kind of entertainment, the kind of engagement we used to do, the way we wanted to network, the kind of content. I mean, the agenda was very different. We used to always create memorable experience. It is just not a dull, boring conference where people, whatever, loads of presentation slides being shown to you, and you go back home, take a gift, have a drink in the evening, and go back. That was what we were doing. We used to create some really, really different kinds of. We had drum circles. We had people creating music. We had hands-on labs. We wanted to actually, the first time we started, I mean, it was one of those industry firsts, right? We used to have labs where people come and try stuff, see stuff, work on technologies as part of the conferences, right? Then we used to I mean, surely even the networking dinners were very different. We used to create ambience, themes. I'm saying people used to ask us as to when the next conference would be or whatever, right? So people used to look forward to those kind of things because we were different and we did things that were memorable and people asked when we would be calling them again. So which is a good thing, right?
I mean, you got a lot of requests for adding people to the guest list. People would reach out and say, next time you're doing something, please forget to invite me. They sound like the kind of events I would love to attend. And
yes.
I think that's the beautiful thing, right? When you do stuff like this, you no longer have to push your marketing onto people. It, in a way, becomes a pull marketing where people are interested in what you have to say or do. And very exciting work you seem to have done. On that, one little note, a few minutes ago, I spoke about how I'm a firm believer in the power of lessons learned through failures or, not so successful exercises. Clearly, you are a man who's not afraid of failure. You're a man who's not afraid of doing things differently. I think the one thing that stops people from doing things differently is the fear of failure. So how do you deal with that? It's one thing to say, don't be afraid, but how do you deal with that?
Honestly, I mean, I've had teams, whenever in a team, right? So give full autonomy to people, right? I mean, see, the thing is sometimes you don't know it all. I mean, I don't know it all. I cannot do it all. I will need to rely on people who are competent or maybe more competent than me in their own. For example, if there's a social media person, probably he definitely knows far more than me. Likewise, somebody is doing something else, right? So that is the first thing. So number two is you will have to show it by an example. You have to lead. For example, if you are conservative yourself, and you're pushing other people to like doing lip service in terms of saying, okay, you guys need to do experimental stuff, it doesn't happen. So you have to lead the example. You show the way. Okay, let's all collectively. It just be a collective thing, right? Okay, the success is the team's, failure is mine, and that's the way a leader should be, right? I mean, you need to take those calls. Okay, let us do something very different. In fact, I remember one quarter, sometime back, I said, let's put all the money on social. Like,
should admit you back then.
I'm telling you, a quarter's full money. I said, let's put it all on social because we have to dominate social visibility that quarter.
Right.
We did not do a single event. We did not do nothing else. I told my MD of the country saying that we are not doing anything this year. We want to experiment. We will do completely only social, blow up, put all the money there.
What happened with it?
It was good. So the thing is, that's what I'm saying, right? And that quarter, we were visible everywhere. I mean, any channel, social, non-social, paid, non-paid, everything. Wherever we could, we were there. And thing is, if you are convinced, see, obviously it's an experiment, right? Number one. Number two, you need to have some people who believe in your story as well. So my bosses my ex-boss in Australia, my country head in India, I told them why we need to do this, because India is a large country and we always been doing very small amount of social. Social, if you remember, we seen this, right? A lot of times social digital is like an afterthought, little bit chunk left here and there, you put in there, and you expect miracle stuff. It doesn't happen, right? So if you don't spend a threshold money for a threshold amount of time, it has no results at all. We said, let's put in all the money. Let's give it our best. It did wonders. I mean, we were like there, visible everywhere. And obviously it showed in downloads, click-throughs, whatever metrics that we set for ourselves, or all the content and all the assets that we put up there. So it had good results, I think, and those kind of things, right? And sometimes opportunities just come your way. I mean, I was remembering the other day. In fact, we put the VMware logo in a cricket match. And somebody reached out to us at the last minute saying that some brand just pulled out in the last minute, and he had inventory. He said, I'm going to give it to you at a really throwaway price. I said, I didn't even ask anyone. It was such a small amount. I said, Lero. And it was a 1-day match or something, or a 3-day. I don't know what the game it was, but in some India or Australia, in Bangalore though. In the in-store, in-stadia banners, the hoardings that you have, it would come every 40 seconds or a minute, like through the day. And that day, what I did, I had not told anyone. I called the team and my sales folks who were on the floor, and we typically have lunch together between 1 and 2, right? All of us were there, and I ensured that everybody was in the office, and I called them into the thing, and there were large TVs in the cafeteria, and the cricket match was playing. I was not even talking. I was just didn't even want to show them that. Everybody was watching TV. Then they said, "Did we see VMware? Did we see VMware?" I said, "Yes." Wow, what is it? What is happening? Who got this? We did this. I'm saying that's not right. So again, it is not only us getting happy about seeing our own logos on television, wherever, but I would have imagined cricket being such a popular thing. I would imagine a lot of prospects and customers and the ecosystem people would have watched.
Yeah.
Not that they give me a PO by seeing the logo on a television on a cricket match, right? It is just reinforcement again.
Absolutely.
More of the part, it is there. I mean, somewhere.
Yeah. Next time there is a competition between a VMware and a competitor, VMware is the name that's stuck on that.
Exactly. And also, as all marketers that we are, and we've done this for many years, right? It is about using what kind of channel at what cost for what reason. As simple as that. I'm not, for the money that I spent, which is pittance, I'm getting a logo there. It is just going to be some reminder to at least, even if 20,000 people across the country viewed it for like even 5 times, I'm happy. Right? I'm not expecting people to queue up and give POs and whatever, right? It's a different purpose altogether. It is just something else. And we have for every stage in the journey of the cycle, the journey cycle of the customer, we have various reasons to do where will I get what kind of content and what level, right? Or what price points. And that anyways we map, right? So that's what I'm saying. So if we don't experiment, and again, let's not create a B2B brand as dull, boring, it's our heads. Come out of it. B2B brand is a brand. You are a marketer, as good a marketer or as great a marketer as anybody else. Own your creativity, put it out there. Use your skills. Don't let mental constrictions or expectations of other people that, B2B guys have to be boring, pull you down, right? You can be who you are. You are a marketing guy. Your brand is a B2B. That's about it. Go for it, man. I mean, why not?
And as someone who works so closely, at Vanilla Skills, my company, we work only with B2B companies and the C-suite. And one of the things that I keep experiencing is that when it comes to social, there is a certain amount of preconceived notion on what should be done, what can be done, and there is a mental block. It's been my experience that every time we have done something different, we've humanized the content, we've done storytelling, we've put something out which makes the brand stand out. It's gotten extremely great reviews. In a social media language, we've got great impressions, we've got great engagement. For the want of a better word, for the lack of a better word, I would say we've actually gone viral on quite a few posts that we've put up. But to me, the secret sauce seems to be experimenting, because every time we've experimented, not every experiment has been successful. But one thing that I've learned is if you do the standard thing over and over again, it just dies down. It just reaches a plateau and just...
Boring things will give boring results. Predictable things give predictable results.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
and we don't want our episode to be boring. So here's a little activity that I like to do. Though you've kept this whole episode so engaging and so lively, I didn't even realize where the time went. But as we come towards the end of the show, I'd like to do a quick rapid fire round with you. And I'll start with a word that you picked up. Blink. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? No overthinking allowed, okay?
Change fast, otherwise in a blink, the world will change.
Nicely said. I would love to quote you on this one. Experiments.
Experiment, fail fast, learn quickly. Otherwise, things will just go way too fast, right? Somebody else will experiment otherwise.
Competition.
Good. Welcome.
Yeah. Freshers.
Energy.
And experience.
Use it wisely. Don't think you know it all. You're always learning. So be a sponge. Your experience you can benefit a few people, but be a sponge. gain from others' experience as well. So you never will be at a stage that you'll know it all.
Very nicely said. Last one, ROI.
Will keep us awake all night. So what we do, it has to be ROI in every which way. So that's what we live for, right? But yeah, that's also responsible for. I mean, all of us, it's as professional marketers, we owe it to our companies to give ROI, right? We seek ROIs. We have to deliver ROI, and that is the professional commitment that all of us have signed for. Apart from salaries, that whatever we do, we will do for the brand in terms of whatever impact it creates. Yeah, so ROI is important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, no awards for this, but very, very insightful and a lot of little gems hidden into this episode. I'm sure our audience would love to go through it all. But just to summarize for them, a few things, at least for me, that are the key takeaways. One is be creative. Don't be boring as a B2B marketer. Always strive to do something different, whether it is a logo on an aeroplane or an in-movie for a B2B, which is again very different. Always strive to do creative work. Use your channels, go more omni-channel, and use those channels keeping the target audience in mind. So do your content for your target audience. You gave a lot of good examples of how experiments can yield fantastic results. So those examples were a gem for me. You also spoke about how sometimes failures are there and you have to learn quickly and move on. So for me, that's a fantastic statement that you've made. And I certainly hope to keep all of this in mind as I continue my career journey. Thank you so much, Jackie, for being on our show. I don't think I can thank you enough for coming in and sharing all these lovely stories, and especially taking all these names. People are always very skeptical of doing that. So thank you so much for being so upfront and such a lively guest on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benita. Thanks for this opportunity. I wish we could do this in person someday, but absolutely wonderful. And hope if somebody could hear this and benefits a little bit, I'll be only glad. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.